Welcome to Talkin' SEC. Writer, photographer, and producer Phillip Jordan discusses the latest news and breaks down the biggest games with the best analysts around. Now, from Southeast Alabama, a state that knows its sports, here is Phillip Jordan.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Talking SEC. I'm your host, Phillip Jordan, for Last World College Football and 96.9 The Legend in Dothan, Alabama, where I'm the in-studio host and producer for Dothan Wolves Football. Your playoff-bound Dothan Wolves, by the way. But anyways, guys, happy Monday morning. I'm coming to you bright and early here on a Monday morning with your SEC recap episode. Just a warning, this is an audio-only edition for people checking out over on YouTube. That's why you're only seeing the Talking SEC logo in front of you, but we're on YouTube right now, as always. On today's show, we'll be talking about the Arkansas-Auburn game, and then kind of just talking about, once again, it's Auburn being Auburn, Arkansas offensive explosion. It's all about how Tennessee blew out Kentucky. Florida was not able to come back against the Georgia Bulldogs, and also we'll be talking about how Ole Miss just ran past the Texas A&M Aggies. You can check out Talking SEC on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. It means a lot to the show if you do that. If you leave a review, I will read it on a future edition of the show. You can also watch the show over on YouTube, either at the Phillip Jordan YouTube channel. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for all notifications, and leave a comment on a video. I'll read that on a future edition of the show. Also over on the Talking SEC YouTube channel as well. You can always email me at sports.phillipjordan@gmail.com or hit me up on social media at pjordansec. All right, everybody, so let's jump into these Week 9 games. We're going in order now. There's some news items that hit also during the weekend and on Friday. We'll talk about them after the game. Just going to go through these games real quickly. Try to keep this thing around 20, 25 minutes this morning, which I said that before, then I ended up going 30, 40 minutes. So Arkansas and Auburn, we'll go in order that the games happen. So Auburn and Arkansas kicked the thing off at 11 o'clock Central Time on Saturday. Arkansas comes away with a 41-27 victory here. So when me and Matt talked last week, and Matt was very optimistic that Auburn could win this game. And early on, I thought Auburn did some good things. They actually had a little bit of running game going. They moved the ball the first couple of possessions in the first quarter. Yeah, they only get a field goal. They had another missed field goal out of it. I think it's really time to start asking some questions with Anders Carlson. Should he be the kicker that's out there? But this game did snap the Arkansas 6-game losing streak to Auburn, which a lot of Arkansas fans think that should have happened a couple years ago with that Bo Nix play where he basically threw it behind. It should have been a fumble. This was 17-13 at halftime, and in the first half, it was weird. Arkansas really wasn't dominant in their run game. They were coming into this game the second best running team in the SEC. Of course, they had the best rusher in the league in Rocket Sanders, who had a big game. We'll get to that in a second. But really in the second half, Arkansas really leaned on their run game. But this was 17-13 going in the halftime. Auburn actually made some big plays. Tank Bigsby had a big 41-yard touchdown run. Robbie Ashford made some big plays. So Auburn kind of gave their fans some hope there. Like I said, it's 17-13 going in the locker room. Auburn was going to get the ball first to start the second half. So you probably think, okay, Auburn's doing some good things. They had some momentum there at the end of the first half. Perhaps they can come in here into the second half, get that first possession, score a touchdown, and really gain some big momentum, get the crowd into it. That did not happen. Auburn come out, had a punt really, really quick coming out of the locker room, and then Arkansas just dominated them, 14-0 there in the third quarter. So they were up 31-13. I mean, Auburn made it more respectable with a couple of touchdowns late, make it 41-27. And Arkansas just dominated in the running game in the second half for 286 yards overall, 216 there in the second half. Big game for KJ Jefferson. Now, Auburn had a hard time stopping him the entire game. He had a 13-yard run touchdown there in the first half. Shades of Cam Newton with the Superman pose too at the end. Yeah, he was 16-24, 234. He had 45 rushing and 2 touchdowns as well. And then we'll talk about Rocket Sanders at that 216 second half rushing. He had 171 yards rushing in the game. And Auburn's run defense is just bad. They are the worst at this in the conference. They gave up, over the last 3 games, they've given up 1,026 yards and 13 touchdowns. Like I said, all in the last 3 games. Total Tank Bigsby getting that 41-yard touchdown run. He only had 63 yards on the game total. So Arkansas did a good job. And once he got up, he just had to throw the ball. And Robbie Ashford, 24-33, 285, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, and 87 yards rushing. This is really the first time this year I think Auburn done a good job at taking care of the football, and it still didn't help them with the win. I just think they get too pass happy. I mean, I know the offense line struggles, but you just have to lean on your running game. And Brian Harsin and the staff just refuse to do that. They just get too pass happy with Robbie Ashford. And, they don't do enough design runs with Robbie Ashford either. I guess I get it. You only have Holden Garner behind him, which he got announced before the game that he was going to be the starter. And I was like, okay, what's going on? But then you read on Twitter, all the people that are there reporting on the game are saying, no, Robbie Ashford taking all the snaps. I guess it was just a mistake by whoever made the mistake there at Auburn. But Auburn's 3-5 now. They will play at Mississippi State. They're 1-4 in the conference. And then Arkansas is now 5-3, 2-3. And they will be going out of conference this Saturday when they play Liberty. At the 2:30 Central game, Florida and Georgia, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I know we're not supposed to call it that anymore, but I'm going to call it that. That is what this game is. So that's what we're going to call it. It's just what it is. But Georgia wins 42-20 in this one. Georgia jumped up 28-3. Georgia looked very dominant early, and Anthony Richardson got a little bit of an injury, and you heard both Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson talk about it during the broadcast. That he's limited. They really weren't running Anthony Richardson, and you could tell it really hurts all because look, Anthony Richardson had a lot of hype coming to the year as a guy that could potentially be a first round, second round draft pick. A lot of people liked him, but you watch him. I hope he does come back in the year. I hope he doesn't listen to the wrong people and tries to go to the NFL. He's just not ready. He's a great athlete. He makes some spectacular plays, and he makes some really great throws at times, but the consistency is not there. So when Florida has to rely on him just throwing the ball, it's not going to work for them. That's not when they're going to be at their best way it is this year. Maybe over the all season he can get more development as a passer, and then they could lean on that a little bit more next season. But right now, that's not who he is. So if they cannot use him in the quarterback run game, it really hurts their offense, and it did in the first half. But Georgia jumps up 28-3. And then Florida came out second half, third quarter. I guess I don't know what happened. Anthony Richardson just was blocking out the pain or whatever. 17 unanswered. Now, Georgia helped them in that. Amari Burney for Florida, 2 tremendous plays. He forced a fumble, and he also got an interception off Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett threw 2 interceptions in this one. So they got within 28-20, and you're thinking, okay, we got a ball game here. Florida has them fall back. They're in this thing. We'll see what happens. But then Georgia does what championship teams do. They got back. They got refocused on the run game. Brock Bowers made a tremendous catch on a 4th down to extend a drive, and then they just took care of business and they pulled away 42-20, and Florida could not get back into the end zone. I mean, like I said, they were helped by some Georgia turnovers, some Georgia mistakes, but at the same time, you got to give Florida credit for fighting back. I mean, there's no moral victories. Billy Napier, the players, are like, well, we still lost the game. We're 4-4. But you still got to appreciate the fight that they were they able to come back. Last year's Florida team probably would have folded. This one did not. So that's credit to Billy Napier and just the culture and the attitude he now has as Florida Gator football team with. Now, Anthony Richardson on the game, he was 18-37, 271, 1 touchdown, interception. He didn't really have a lot of rushing yards, but, there's some sacks in there, stuff like that. But just the threat of him running a little bit more did help out the Florida Gators in this one, but they weren't able to continue going. Georgia's just too good. Georgia is just too good. They're number 1 team in the country for a reason. Georgia total 555 yards total offense. Like I said, Brock Bowers had a big game. The 5 receptions, 154, 1 touchdown. He had the one off the tip pass and just took it to the house. And just what he's able to do is just amazing. Like I said, the big 4th down catch to as Florida had some momentum, trying to get a stop, trying to get the ball back. But big catch there by him. Thomas Stetson Bennett, he was 19 of 38, 316, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and the run game was big. John Edwards had 106 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Kenny McIntosh also added in 90 rushing yards as well. Jumping into a 3 o'clock game over on the SEC Network. Missouri defeated South Carolina 23-10. Number 25 South Carolina. to go to 4-4 on the year, 2-3 in conference, and then South Carolina goes to 5-3, 2-3 in conference. And we talked about this one. We talked about all these games with Matt Lowe on the preview pod on Thursday, and I picked South Carolina to win this one. Matt actually got this. Matt got this one right by going with Missouri to win, and I just thought South Carolina would come in and take care of the ball. They've been really, and not necessarily they would take care of the ball. They would just get more turnovers. And Missouri has been turnover prone all year long, but South Carolina didn't cause any. Missouri took care of the ball. I mean, had 0 turnovers in this game. Spencer Rattler had 2, and that was the big thing. He did not have a good day. And South Carolina was only able to rush for 32 yards in the game, a 1.4 average. I mean, that's something they have been able to lean on lately, and they just could not run the ball. Spencer Rattler was turning the ball over too. He had an interception and he had a fumble in the game. And Brady Cook was very efficient in this game, quarterback from Missouri. He was 17 of 26 for 224. He also had 53 yards rushing. He's a very underrated runner as a quarterback. I don't think that gets a lot of credit, and he'd have the one rush touchdown. I'll tell you, it was big. He was 17-26. 10 of those passes went to Dominic Lovett with 10 catches, 148. He did score a touchdown. They also did a good job. I talk about Spencer Rattler turning the ball over. They also got a lot of pressure on him. 4 sacks in the game, and then they had 11 tackles for loss overall. The Missouri defense did. Now, Missouri did jump out to a 17-0 lead in this one. Kind of like they did against Vanderbilt. And then South Carolina got within 17-10 there in the third quarter with 4:12 left. They got a Rattler touchdown run and then a Mitch Jeter 39-yard field goal. And then you're kind of like, okay, so South Carolina's coming back. Is this going to be kind of the same deal happened last week with Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt came back on. Missouri almost pulled it off. Will South Carolina do it except this time? Will they finish the deal? But they got some field goals from the thicker kicker, Mevis over there at Missouri, and then they were able to take the lead and keep the lead and win 23-10. Really good defensive performance from Missouri in this one, and solid performance from the offense for Brady Cook and wide receiver Dominic Lovett. Number 19, Kentucky, and number 3, Tennessee. This was going in. I said, okay, this is the best game in the SEC this weekend. You had Chris Fowler, Kurt Herbstreit on the call. Tennessee just was unstoppable. 44-6 in this one. It was never a game. It really felt. I mean, there were some moments there in the first half where Kentucky made some plays, and it was 7-6 going into the second quarter. But yeah, Tennessee continues the undefeated season, 8-0, 4-0, getting ready for the Georgia matchup this Saturday. For Kentucky, they fall to 5-3, 2-3. Just, this game obviously didn't work out for them. I mean, it was a blowout loss for Kentucky, but you got to look at really how they're got to be feeling there. You probably feel like you should have beat Ole Miss. The turnovers in the red zone and just the special teams blunders. And then you figure, okay, if Will Levis doesn't get hurt, they beat South Carolina. I still fully believe that they beat South Carolina if Will Levis was the quarterback that day. So you think, okay, then they just got the one loss is this one. Then you're thinking, look, we're not on the level. We're not a competitor with Georgia or Tennessee for the SEC East, but still we're a solid one-loss team. We're a good team. I still think Kentucky's a good team, but the inconsistencies here. Obviously, not having Chris Rodriguez the first 4 games. The offense line's not been great at times. I saw the stat. I think Will Levis was sacked 22 times all of last year. He's been sacked 23 times this year. They don't do a job protecting him. He gets hit a lot. Now, he's a tough quarterback, but he's had to deal with some injuries this year as well. So Tennessee opens the thing up, scores with less than 2 minutes, to kick off the game. Hendon Hooker connects with, guess who? Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt had 2 receiving touchdowns in this game. Now, Kentucky was down 26. They were moving the ball there in the second quarter. Okay, Kentucky's about to. This is kind of like I said, there was moments in this game where it seemed like Kentucky could be in it. And I say this one thing with Tennessee. They did a good job early against Chris Rodriguez. There were some times he got stuff at the line of scrimmage. I said Tennessee is underrated defensively against the run, which is going to be interesting against Georgia. They're not good against the pass, but they were able to make some plays. They intercepted Will Levis 3 times in this game. So Kentucky was moving the ball. It's 20-6. You're thinking, okay, here we go. They're going to score here. It's going to be 20-13. Your defense will stop, which is easier said than done against this Tennessee offense. But this was one of the interceptions from Will Levis, intercepted by Juwan Mitchell. But it was off of a big hit by Danico Slaughter on wide receiver. Key there for Kentucky, and then it was 27-6 at halftime. And at this point, Kentucky is a good team, and they have some good receivers. And obviously, you got Will Levis, which again, he did not have a good performance in this one. But when you make Kentucky one-dimensional, and they have to throw the ball every down, that's when they're going to get in trouble. And that's what happened here. They just weren't built for this at this game. And just that crowd at Tennessee, they were into it. I don't like the black jerseys. People that know me know I do not like the alternate. I'm not a big fan of like different looking jerseys. I'm just not a big fan. But anyways, get off that topic. Hendon Hooker was 19-25, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns in the game. He did have 1 rushing touchdown as well. Again, Jalen Hyatt, 5 receptions, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cedric Tillman did play. He didn't do a lot, but he was back in lineup, so that's a good sign for them. And we had Brew McCoy. I mean, this is a threesome of receivers. It's just dangerous for Tennessee. As I said, Will Levis struggled, 16-27, 98 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Of course, Juwan Mitchell, Brandon Turner's got 1, and Danico Slaughter also got 1. And then he got sacked 1.5 times by Byron Young for Tennessee. Really the best guy on that defensive front for the Volunteers. And then the last game of the evening, Ole Miss did defeat Texas A&M 31-28. A&M had a 14-10 lead at halftime in this one. It was a great way to celebrate the 19th birthday for Quinshon Judkins, the running back for Ole Miss, the best rushing team in the conference. He had 205 yards, 1 touchdown. Zach Evans was back this week. He had a 75-yard game as well. Jackson Dart added to the rushing with 95 rushing yards. He was 13-20 passing for 140, and he threw 3 touchdown passes. So everybody in the backfield had a good performance there for Ole Miss. 390 yards rushing overall. Now, this game was close, and like I said, A&M had that halftime lead. It's like, okay, A&M's playing well here. They're going to get the win here, a big win. They could go to 4-4. Look, you're just trying to find something positive through the season now. But Judkins had a 1-yard touchdown run with 7:18 left to put Ole Miss up 31-21. Now, this was the first career start for freshman Connor Wigman. Of course, he got into the game late against South Carolina due to Haynes King getting hurt. Wigman was good. I was very impressed with him despite the loss. 28-44, 338 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think A&M maybe has found their quarterback. He needs to be playing rest of the year. They found some receivers that stepped up too. Moose Muhammad had 8 receptions for 112 yards and 1 touchdown. Then Evan Stewart had 6 receptions for 88 yards and a touchdown. Devin Achane also added in with the touchdown reception. He also had 138 yards on the ground. So I think A&M found some stuff offensively. I mean, I know Ole Miss is not a really great defense, but still at the same time, you got to be impressed with what you saw out of the young quarterback there for A&M. And they were down 31-21. They did score a touchdown with 125 left in the game, make it 31-28 with a 7-yard touchdown catch by Devin Achane. And they did get the ball, but turnover downs, they were deep. They were down on their own 8-yard line. Really tough to go down the field to set up for anything. And then Ole Miss is able to hold on. Of course, if we talk about everything that what Lane Kiffin did say after the game, and obviously this game was personal with Jimbo Fisher and all that stuff. So next up, some news, some headlines around the SEC as we kind of just close up the show real quickly here. Of course, sad news on Friday. Vince Dooley, legendary Georgia head coach and athletic director, passed away at 90. Of course, you guys had Troy Sadowski on here, had him on the show last week, and he comes on pretty regular. He played for Vince Dooley, so we've heard some Vince Dooley stories here on the show or any shows I've done when Troy's been on the show. Obviously, the 1980 national championship for the Georgia Bulldogs. He was 201, 77, and 10 as the head coach there at Georgia. 17-win season, 6 SEC titles. He was the head football coach there from 1964 to 1988. And then also the athletic director from 1979 to 2004. He was Georgia football. It was just really an interesting thing with him because he went to Auburn and he's in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. And then he coaches Georgia, which was the reverse. Pat Dye played at Georgia, then coached Auburn. That was always one of the cool things about that rivalry. when they play each other. But thoughts and prayers with the Dooley family, their friends, just Dog Nation right now. They got to win on Saturday against Vince Dooley, and the program had to be dedicating that win to Vince Dooley and the Dooley family. But at age 90, one of the great ones. And like I said, thoughts and prayers with the Dooley family as they go through this difficult time, and his friends, former players, anybody associated with Georgia football. Now, is Auburn prepared? Are they about to have their new athletic director? Of course, Alan Green's been out of the job for a little bit now. AD John Cohen, who's currently the Mississippi State athletic director. Now, of this recording, this has not become official. It feels like it's about to happen, but it's not official yet. So we're just going to roll with that. And just looking at this whole situation, like I said, he is the current Mississippi State athletic director. He started that in 2016. He's originally from Alabama. He was born in Tuscaloosa, so his ties to it. I was looking, so what would be his ties to Auburn? Well, he was from the state. That's pretty much it from what I saw. He did play baseball at Mississippi State, so he would be leaving his alma mater for the Auburn job. You got to figure it's going to be a substantial increase in pay to come to Auburn to be the athletic director. And then he did coach Ole Miss baseball from 2009 to 2016. We'll see. Obviously, it looks like they want to get an AD in there and then probably fire Brian Harsin. We all know that's coming to an end. What does this do? What would you think who would he want to hire? Look, I've said this. I don't think it really matters who the athletic director is at Auburn. It's going to come down who the power people at Auburn, who they want as head coach. And I know a lot of people say, well, no, Hugh Freeze has got that new contract at Liberty. He's no longer candidate for Auburn. Trust me. That buyout won't be an issue. If Hugh Freeze is the guy Auburn wants, they'll get him. If it won't be because of money. It'd be just because Hugh Freeze turns them down. He don't want to coach there. But it won't be because of that. Update on the SEC standings now as we are out of week 9. I can't believe we're about to hit week 10 in college football. Season has just flown by. Georgia and Tennessee sit at top as undefeated in the conference, undefeated overall. You got Kentucky and South Carolina, both 2-3 in conference, both with 5-3 overall records. And then you also have Missouri at 2-3. They're 4-4 overall. You have Florida with 1-4, 4-4 overall, and Vanderbilt's at the bottom in the East at 0-4 and 3-5. In the SEC West, LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama all sit at top at 4-1 apiece. LSU 6-2, Ole Miss is 8-1, and Alabama is 7-1 overall. You have Arkansas, Mississippi State, both at 2-3 in conference and 5-3 overall as well. And then you have Auburn and Texas A&M, both at 1-4. These two teams playing a few weeks, and they're 3-5 overall. In the latest AP and coaches poll, which the first college football playoff does get released this Tuesday. So Wednesday, get ready for my my thoughts on the first college football playoff rankings. I have a feeling Tennessee is going to be number one. I just kind of a feeling I have with how that was going, but could be wrong. So in the AP poll, Georgia stays at number 1. Tennessee goes up 1 to number 2. Now they are tied with Ohio State, so we have 2 number 2 teams, which makes this matchup this Saturday against Georgia, Tennessee 1 versus 2. Alabama stays at number 6. They were off this week. Ole Miss jumps up 4 spots. They are now number 11 in AP poll. And LSU, despite not playing, moves up 3 spots to number 15. Kentucky and South Carolina drop out of the rankings. Kentucky was 19. South Carolina was 25. Then the coaches poll, Georgia stays number 1. Tennessee stays at 3. Alabama stays at 6. Ole Miss jumps up 2 spots to get to number 10 in the coaches poll. LSU goes up 3 spots to go to number 17 in the coaches, and Kentucky stays in the rankings. They drop 7 spots. They go from 17 to number 24, and South Carolina falls out of the top 25 in the coaches poll. All right, guys, and that's going to do it for this edition of Talking SEC. I appreciate you taking time out, checking out the show this morning. Just me, as usually is on Mondays, just flying solo Monday mornings, giving you guys all the latest on what's going on from the previous weekend in the SEC. Now, remember, on Tuesday, I will be joined by Coach Max Howell. So you heard my thoughts on these games. We'll get Coach's thoughts on what's going on in the SEC on Tuesday. Get that former coach's breakdown of what he saw on the game film when he watched the games on Saturday. Of course, Wednesday, probably just going to be a reaction to the rankings. I thought we had a guest locked in. So, I haven't heard back from them. We'll just say that. They haven't messaged me back. But anyways, people get busy. It's a busy time of year for all these people that cover these teams. But Thursday, of course, me and Matt Lowe will preview the Week 10 matchups, which is going to be a lot of fun with the still got this past weekend's games on my mind. The Georgia-Tennessee matchup and also the Alabama-LSU matchup. So, and we'll also get a little preview from Coach on those two as well, because these were all blowouts this past week. So we may just jump into some Georgia-Tennessee and some Alabama-LSU talk when we jump into that conversation with Coach Max Howell. And, of course, me and Matt will preview those games and more on Thursday's podcast. Everybody has a great Monday. Remember, you can follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast is available on all your favorite podcast platforms. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review. I will read it on a future edition of the show. You can also check out the show over on YouTube, Phillip Jordan Sports, or the Talking SEC YouTube channels. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for all notifications, and also leave a comment. Leave a comment video. I'll also read those as well. You can always email me at sportstalkphilipjordan@gmail.com. Hope everybody, again, has a great Monday. I'll talk to you on Tuesday. You've been listening to Talking SEC.
Thank you for listening to Talkin' SEC. Follow Phillip on social media at PJordanSEC and the show at Talkin' SEC Pod. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time when we're talking SEC.